Hey guys, first Marksman here, and so I'll be talking about a Melta rifle execution build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 Patch 12. Now, the Vanguard's execution combo, Zone of Impact, and Tactical Prowess is still the best option for him in the game currently, and the Melta rifle is still one of the best weapons available to him. Now, the variant I've chosen on this is the ranged version, mainly because the damage fall off here is very good compared to the other options, and you could take the magazine capacity version if you want, but personally I think the range version is just worth a lot more, and the ammo economy on this is actually quite strong, mainly because of the perk down here, Decisive Reload. Performing a finisher on a majority level or higher enemy with this weapon restores ammo by 1. Now, you do have to have the weapon equipped to actually trigger this, but ammo restore on Vanguard is actually pretty hard to find. This is actually one of the best options for him for that reason. So Decisive Reload, I think, is by far the best perk, and this perk also builds into some of the other top tier perks we have here with Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores your health by 10%. We do not take healing on this build. I mean, you will be able to potentially build into that if you want, but on this one, I'm taking Inner Fire, so having an option to stay like above 30% HP here is pretty damn good. Next perk here is Trick Shot, killing 5 enemies with 1 shot restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This perk is really good even on the Inferno pistol, but on the Melta rifle, you have a higher chance of one-shotting guys, so really good here, and armor restoring a 30-second cooldown is actually pretty damn powerful. Next perk is Great Might, up here into the perk Divine Might, and then I grab the perk here, Extended Magazine, into First Shot, and then of course Retaliation, and the final one is Perpetual Fire for a better fire rate. I do think the top tree here is much better than the bottom, because the bottom just gives you like a little bit more range, but the range variant is already pretty strong for that, and that's pretty much all there is for the Melta rifle. Now for our secondary weapon here, I do take the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol, mainly because this one has the highest gunstrike damage in the entire game. They actually fixed the Heroic perk effect here, No Help is Coming. Shooting at me with the lead stream stats stops from calling for reinforcements, and headshots will kill in 1 shot. Now in patch 11, this was bugged to not function at all on body shots, and now it actually works on all body shots and headshots, so pretty good there. And for the perk tree, we just go all the way down the bottom tree with Divine Might, into the perk Perpetual Penetration, Increased Capacity, Extended Magazine, Death Strike, which is one of the best like damage perks on this weapon anyways, and then we pick up Great Might, the perk Strong Start, and Able Damage. After using a class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. Now, we are a Vanguard with Inner Fire, so using Grapnel happens all the time. This buff is up pretty much 24/7, so really good synergy there. And the final perks are Home Precision up here into the perk Gunstrike Reload, and then of course Tactical Precision for 20% more headshot damage, and non-headshot damage decreasing by 10%, because headshot damage is pretty much all that matters on this gun. Now, for my melee weapon, I do take the newly buffed Balanced Power Axe. This weapon is incredible in patch 12. All the balanced weapons got a base damage buff, and the Balanced Power Axe kind of hits like a truck now. And for the perk tree, I kind of like build the best of both worlds on this thing. I go for melee damage first, Perpetual Strength, going here to the perk Coup de Grace, Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again. And then we start going down the top tree to pick up things like Patient Stance up into the perk Endless Slash. You can endlessly chain Whirl Slash attacks. This weapon is actually pretty fast, so you actually do get some benefit out of this perk. And I move here into the perk Power Strike. Gun Strike from Power Stance deals 20% more damage. Now, this is the main reason I want to go up here, because we do have an actual parry, and if you are able to use your power backstep, it will move you out of the way of an enemy, and that will be giving you enough room to grapple back to them to trigger Tactical Prowess and Zone of Impact. So a really good synergy on this build, and for the most part, I think you're not missing out too much by going up here instead of going down here first, because you're really only missing Counterattack and Riposte, which are good perks, but so is the perk Power Strike, which is why we're taking it today. Next perk here is Power Wave. Power Backstep Wave damages more enemies. Moving down here into the perk Tactical Retreat, Power Backstep deals 25% more damage, because Power Backstep is like one of the best reasons to use a Power Axe on any variant. And the final perk I take is Cleaver. Damage increases by 10% against majority level and higher enemies. And now if you want to, you could like skip this perk and this perk here and just go here for like Minority Slayer and Restoration instead for Armor Restore, or alternatively you could pick up like the perk here, Rebound instead, but I just prefer this because damage is what I'm going for, and this also like helps us out with Horde Clear, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe. Now for the Vanguard perk tree, I do take the perk here Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, You do not lose control from heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. No knockback is one of the strongest effects in this game, so I pretty much always pick this up. And the perk up here, Melee Mastery, is just not very strong, and the perk up here, Moving Target, did get reworked in like patch 11, and it still sucks, so I just go for this one. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction on Armor Break is incredible in this game. Conviction is one of the top tier damage reduction perks in all of Space Marine 2, and by far the best option in this column in my opinion. Next perk here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, 90-second Melta bombs are kind of cracked, but even crack grenades, shock grenades, and frags are tremendous value, so this perk is a top tier option. The next perk here is Inner Fire. All team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majora's level or higher enemies. This perk is an amazing cooldown effect. A 15% CDR reduction on a Tech Marine, on a Bulwark, heavy even, or especially the tactical with Auspex. This is just amazing for your whole team. It's also amazing for you because more of your grapnels means more armor from launch restoration, and also means more potential triggers of things like Restless Fortitude, the perk here Zone of Impact, and of course Tactical Prowess. So a really good synergy here, though I will say, if you want some healing on this build, you could take this perk instead. Next perk is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. A 40% range damage reduction in this game is tremendous. When you stack that on top of Conviction, you will pretty much not die to range fire at all if your armor breaks. A really good option here. And they also buffed this back in like patch 11 to properly trigger off a Tactical Prowess Execute, so it's even better than ever. The next perk here is Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with the grapple launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. This perk puts out so much damn damage. It's like your main source of horde control in this build anyways. And it's also like the obvious combo with the perk over here, Tactical Prowess. It says grapple launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but also on those who have less than 33% HP, and a grapple finisher will restore its charge. So you see the obvious combo here. You take these two, you have a flowchart build now, and you just go from like one enemy to the next and just wipe out the whole horde. A really good option, and the only thing actually holding back this perk combo is bugs and the god-awful grapple targeting. If the grapple targeting was better in this game, this would be like a top tier option, like period, but it's still the best on Vanguard, even with that being said. Next perk here is Combat Readiness for even more grapple launchers. So if you want to take through all the fight instead for like health damage reduction, you can definitely do that. That is up to you. And of course, the final perk is Tactical Prowess, and that's all there is for the main perk tree. Now, for the Prestige perk list, it's pretty much the same as always. We take Battlefield Awareness for 10% more range damage within 8 meters because we are a Vanguard with Grapple Launcher, and we also have a Melta Rifle, so perfect synergy there. And next perk here is Fortitude because health increases are super valuable, and the final two perks are Launch Restoration and Restoration, because Launch Restoration gives you an armor back on every single grapnel, and that means every trigger of Inner Fire is going to be even more valuable, and things like Combat Readiness, the triggers off of Tactical Prowess, you can get so much free armor off of this perk. One of the best options here, and Restoration is just gonna be more armor on top of that. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. Hey guys, first regards in here, and so I'll be talking about a Marksman Bolt Carbine build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 patch 12.0. Now, the Marksman Carbine this patch did get a buff to its base damage on the Ammo Reserve option, and now actually has about as much headshot damage on this variant as the ×2 headshot multiplier version, which does make it the best version of all the variants in my opinion currently. And for the perk tree here, I do take the perk Headhunter first. Headshots deal 10% more damage. Moving here to the perk Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 10%. This is just a very strong perk to have on like pretty much any build, even though the Vanguard does make this a little bit redundant because we have healing like Adrenaline Rush and the perk here Unmatched Zeal. I'm only taking one of those options today, so sometimes having like a burst HP heal can still help. Next perk here is Home Precision. Equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. This just makes your gun a laser beam on the hip fire. Now, this is definitely a more useful perk on the automatic variant because this one's accuracy is just way worse, but still, sometimes you will barrel stuff and just hip fire, especially on Vanguard, so it's pretty good there as well. Next perk here is Divine Might for a damage increase of 10%, into the perk Headhunter and Headhunter again for a 20% headshot damage increase, and down here into the perk Extended Magazine, Divine Might, increased capacity, and of course, Magazine Restoration. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is restored by full magazine, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity, the cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, this perk on top of increased capacity pretty much solve any ammo economy problems you would ever have on this gun, even on the Vanguard class, so a really good combo here. And next perk here is Adamantine Grip, and the final perk is Divine Might for a 10% damage increase, and that's pretty much everything there is for the setup on this weapon. But I do want to say, if you want to like suffer a little bit more on the ammo economy, you could skip the bottom 4 perks here and go up here for perks like Cleaving Fire into Adamant Hunter and Recoupment. Recoupment does give you armor back every 15 seconds on a Majora's Kill or higher, and that is a really good option for headshot damage against like Rubric Marines and stuff like that to get armor back. So if you want to take this, it is a bit safer, but overall, I think this one's a bit better for this build. Now, for the secondary here, I do take the Inferno Pistol. The Inferno Pistol also got buffed up this patch, now has a 22% damage increase to its gun strike damage. That feels way better now. I think that the big issue with the Inferno Pistol for a long time was that god-awful confetti gun strike damage. That is no longer the case. It is a lot better now, and I actually probably prefer it over things like the Neo Volkite. Now, for the perk tree here, I do take Perpetual Range first, moving here into the perk Brace Reload. Then I grab the perk Perpetual Range again up here into the perk Great Might, Increased Capacity, and Adamant Restoration, because we actually get ammo regen built into this gun, which is like one of the best reasons to use the Inferno Pistol in the first place. And the final 2 perks here are Extra Shot and Trick Shot. Killing 5 enemies with 1 shot restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, getting armor back on a 30-second cooldown may not seem like much, but armor restore really built into your weapon is top tier anywhere, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0, even from bosses. So a perk like this can save your life. And that's pretty much all there is for the secondary here. Now, for my melee weapon, I do take a Block Power Axe. Now, I did take this build to Chaos, and I think the Block Power Axe is overall better than the other options against the Hellbrutes and stuff like that, which is why I took it here. I also think it's a very strong option in general for the Vanguard, because block charges do fit his overall playstyle when you're not building to things like Tactical Prowess or Zone of Impact. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do just build all damage, and starting off here with the perk Perpetual Strength, moving here into the perk Coup de Grace. The last strike of a light combo deals 25% more damage. Then I pick up Perpetual Strength and Perpetual Strength again for a 10% melee damage increase, and then we go down here into the perk Counterattack and Riposte. Overhead strike damage after performing a power backstep is doubled. Now, power backstep is the attack you do immediately after a parry when you hold down your attack button on the power axe. If you hold down your attack button again after that, you will do a free overhead strike, and that's what this is actually buffing up. So it's really good to like one combo enemies, and one of the best perks in the entire tree for damage. Next perk here is Hard Target, moving here into the perk Tactical Retreat for 25% more damage on your power backstep. Power backstep is one of the strongest attacks on this weapon anyways, so pretty much always pick this up. Then I go up here into the perk Power Wave. Power backstep wave, it damages more enemies. This just changes the angle of your power backstep to like hit more enemies, very similar to like a Xenophase Blade Ancient Technology perk on the Power Rake, and they're both very strong, though this one is like a little bit harder to like aim at some enemies because it is attached to a parry. Next perk here is Cleaver. Damage increases by 10% against Majora's level and higher enemies, and this is just a catch-all damage increase against enemies you want to kill the most, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe. Now for the Vanguard perk tree, I do pick up the perk Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose 12 heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. No knockback in Space Marine 2 will save your life. The way that no knockback works in this game is that any attack that would knock you over will only stagger you. Any attack that would stagger you while this effect is active will do nothing. So really useful to prevent frame traps. And really, in this tree, the perk here, Melee Mastery, kind of sucks because it's bugged to like not be multiplicative. And the perk up here, Moving Target, is just kind of trash. So definitely pick this one up. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. This is one of the best damage reduction perks in the entire game. A 25% health damage reduction on armor break will save your life all the time. You also have a ton of armor restore in this class anyways, things like Launch Restoration and Restoration, so a really good synergy there. Next perk here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid session restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. A 90-second Melta Bomb in Space Marine 2 will just clear runs for you all on its own. It will absolutely save your life. Even the run I'll actually show here, this perk bails me out all the time because 90-second Melta Bombs are just that good, and really any equipment recharges. Next perk here is Inner Fire. All team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majora's level or higher enemies. This perk is incredible for this build. You really don't need Unmatched Zeal on the Vanguard as much as you might think initially, especially if you have Adrenaline Rush already. And like, it can be helpful for your teammates, but sometimes CDR will actually do more for you, especially on this build. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. Having a 40% range damage reduction on top of a 25% health damage reduction with Conviction will make it so Chaos enemies will not melt you with range fire or even things like Enraged Devourers, so a really good combo here. Next perk here is Tip of the Spear. Enemies hit by diving kick take 15% more range damage for 10 seconds. This is probably the weakest perk in this column, but it's still pretty good for the Marksman Carbine to like go into an enemy and barrel stuff headshots. It will let you kill some Rubric Marines and stuff like that significantly more quickly, especially for weapons like the Heroic Instigator as well. Next perk here is Thrill of the Fight. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This will trigger all the time over and over and over again, and a 20% health damage reduction on top of a 40% range damage reduction on top of a 25% health damage reduction again with Conviction. Well, that makes you incredibly tanky on this class, so a really good synergy here. I think Thrill of the Fight is a bit underrated in this game. It actually comes into play all the time. Final perk here is Adrenaline Rush for 5% more HP restore on Majora's level or higher kills, and that is pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now for the Vanguard Prestige perks, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more rage damage. This is just a free damage buff for something you do all the time on the Vanguard class, which is grapple to an enemy and shoot them in the face, so pretty much always pick this up. Next perk here is Fortitude. Health increases by 15%. Health increases in Space Marine 2 are incredibly valuable because below 25% HP, you do get a ramping damage reduction up to like 1% HP, which means that a base HP increase is actually worth a lot more than it may sound initially, so pretty much always pick these up as well. And the final two perks are Launch Restoration and Restoration for Armor Restore, because Armor Restore is very potent in Space Marine 2 for the reasons I previously mentioned. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and so I'll be talking about a Heroic Chainsword build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 Patch 12. Now, the Heroic Chainsword in Patch 12 has received a plus 10% base damage buff. I'm glad they did this because all of the balanced weapons in this patch got buffed up, and in the PTS, the heroic weapons were kind of left behind, so I'm glad they actually caught up to them. Now, for the heroic perk effect on this, we do have Fist Fight. You perform an additional heavy attack after a quick punch, and also a front kick is replaced with a quick punch, and all heavy attacks deal 15% more damage. So basically, you can combo skip to your stomp from like a light into a heavy into double stomps. That's why I build Trampling Stride on this build. It's pretty fun for that. I would say it's like the major use case scenario of this weapon is just spamming out heavy attacks. That's kind of the whole point. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do start off with Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk with Recovery. Heavy attacks restore 100% more contested health. This just doubles your CHP on heavy attacks, and heavy attacks are pretty much all you do on this weapon anyway, so kind of a no-brainer. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again for a 10% melee damage increase. Then I pick up the perk here, Reverberating Impact. Stomp AoE radius increases by 50%. This is a stomp weapon, so picking this up is just a must-have in my opinion. When you combine this perk with the perk over here, Trampling Stride, for an additional stomp after the first one, you can just put out a ridiculous amount of AoE. You can stomp out the Bramble, you can stomp out Cultist, Minoris. It's very good for Horde Clear, and I do actually like this perk quite a bit. Next perk here is Combined Onslaught. Moving down here into the perk Heavy Onslaught for even more heavy attack damage. And the final perks I grab are Minoris Slayer and Extremis Slayer. If you want to go up here instead for Hard Target and the perk here Majora Slayer, that's also an option. That is up to you. And I would say the most important perk in this whole tree to pick up is, of course, Trampling Stride. After performing a stomp, hold the attack button to perform an additional stomp. This is like the major use case scenario for this perk in general. I really would not take this on the other versions of the Chainsword because the Full Throttle perk is better for a combo skip, but on this weapon you already have a combo skip, so skipping into your stomp is just super easy and really effective for that bonus damage from this perk. And that's pretty much all there is for the Chainsword here. Now, for my primary weapon, I do take the Bolt Carbine automatic version on the ammo reserve option. This is a very ammo efficient weapon and very good for close range damage. We are building around Tip of the Spear this time, so basically when you ram into an enemy and you shoot them in the face off your grapnel, you will also have an increased headshot multiplier with this weapon. The Bolt Carbine automatic variant may say it has a headshot multiplier of ×1, but the headshot multiplier actually goes up within close range of an enemy. It doesn't actually tell you this in game, so just keep that in mind. Your damage does go kind of crazy at like point blank. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do take the perk Headhunter first, moving here into the perk Rapid Health. Then I pick up the godly perk here, Home Precision. This perk says equip weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. On this version, I think this is a must-have perk, mainly because this allows you to take the ammo reserve option in magazine capacity version, and also just circumvent the 2 accuracy, because when you hip fire, your weapon basically becomes a laser beam at close range. So a really good synergy here, so pretty much always grab this. Next perk here is Divine Might for a 10% damage increase. Then I pick up Headhunter and Headhunter for 20% total headshot damage. Then we go down here into Extended Magazine, Divine Might again, and then we pick up all of our ammo perks with increased capacity and the perk here, Magazine Restoration. And the final perks I grab here are Adamantine Grip and the perk Divine Might for even more damage. Though I will say, if you want to go for Recoupment and Armor Restore, you can up here because you just skip over these bottom perks. But the ammo economy is very important on this weapon in my opinion, so picking up this is just my preferred. That is also up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the bolt carbine. Now, for my secondary, I do take the Inferno pistol now. In this patch, the Inferno pistol gun strike damage got upped by 22%. It feels way better now. I'm actually a big fan of the Inferno pistol in this patch, and I'm taking the magazine capacity version because more ammo on this gun feels pretty good to me. And for the perk tree, I do take Perpetual Range first, moving here to the perk Brace Reload. Mainly because the perk up here, Motivated Melee, which says melee damage increases by 20% if this weapon has no ammo in its magazine. This perk is not like god-awful, but even with the melee damage build we're doing here, it's not super good. The damage buff from this is not as good as it sounds. It's actually an additive buff instead of multiplicative, and it's just like the perk over here with Retribution that is also not very strong. It's just like a copy-pasted effect, and if you want to take this, you could. It will do some damage. I just don't think it's worth it. Next perk here is Perpetual Range, up here into the perk Great Might. Then I pick up Increased Capacity and the perk here Adamant Restoration, and the final 2 perks are Extra Shot and the perk Trick Shot for killing 5 enemies with 1 shot versus an armor segment. Cooldown is 30 seconds. Being able to get armor back off your secondary is incredible, and also just horde clear on this is pretty good in general, so a really nice option. I actually prefer the bottom tree overall far more than the top tree, though having rapid health built into your secondary is pretty nice. We already have that built into our primary here with rapid health on our bolt carbine, so kind of redundant. Now for the Vanguard perk tree, I do take the perk Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose control from heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. This perk will save your life, and no knockback is incredibly valuable in this game because stun locks are super dangerous, and you are a melee class, so kind of a no-brainer here. Next perk here gives you a 25% health damage reduction for 10 seconds on armor break. This is also the best perk in this column in my opinion. Duelist doesn't really help you out too much once you actually learn the parry windows in this game, and the perk here Close Combat Focus has kind of fallen off as Chaos Spawn got added, so I think Conviction is overall better. Next perk here is Consecutive Execution, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession was charged by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, the funny thing about this perk is that, yeah, you could take Retribution up here for a melee damage increase, or you could get like a 90-second Sanctified Wrath Reliquary. It'll give you a way better melee damage buff, so just pick this one up. This is also like the best horde clear on this build, the Melta Bomb anyways, so it is overall the best option. Next perk here is Inner Fire. All team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majora's level or higher enemies. This perk is great for cooldown. Now, in patch 11 and beyond, it did actually nerf this perk to only function on finishers. Previously, it was working on like gunshots as well. That's no longer the case, but hey, it's still pretty good. And you also don't need the healing perk here because we do have Adrenaline Rush down our tree later. Next perk here is Shockwave. Diving Kick additionally deals damage in a 5-meter radius. You know, you can really take whatever you want in this column. You can take Restless Fortitude if you want to. You can take collateral damage for more diving kick damage. The big thing here is that we want Tip of the Spear for our bolt carbine. This is probably the weakest option in this column technically because Zone of Impact is better with tactical prowess, but on this build, having a 15% range damage increase on diving kick for 10 seconds is quite strong for a bolt carbine. Next perk here is Combat Readiness. Grapnel Launcher recharges 20% faster. More grapnels means more diving kick damage on your shockwave or collateral damage here, and also means more Tip of the Spears, and also just means more triggers on your launch restoration, so great perk. Final perk here is Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills Majora's level or higher enemies restore health by 5%. This is just healing on Majora's kills with your melee weapon, and melee is like 90% of your class. It also functions on Execute, and that's pretty much all there is for the perk tree here. Now, for my prestige perks here, I do take Battlefield Awareness first, into the perk Fortitude, Launch Restoration, and Restoration, because having armor restore like this is super damn valuable on this build, and also Now, for my prestige perks here, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more range damage. We do have a Bolt Carbine and a Grapnel Launcher, so this will trigger all the time pretty much. Next perk is Fortitude for a health increase of 15%. Moving here into the perk Launch Restoration, gives us armor on every grapnel, and then we pick up the perk Restoration. Killing 7 enemies, rapid succession restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Having multiple sources of armor restore in this game is incredible, and Launch Restoration especially is so damn powerful with the grapple regen like Combat Readiness and Inner Fire, because armor regen will save your life, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0 even from bosses, and we are a melee class, so we're in like point blank all the time and more likely to be hit by that, so a really good option. Also just makes you very tanky. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and so I'll be talking about an Occulus Bolt Carbine moving target build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 past 12.2. Now, in this hotfix, it did buff up the perk Moving Target, and now says killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 10%. This was previously a 5% ability charge restore, and to be honest, this perk is okay right now. I would primarily use this with an Occulus Bolt Carbine like I'll be using today, or something like an Instigator Carbine, but for the most part, I would just stick to this version, because the main reason the Occulus is so strong in this game for this build is because the ×2 headshot multiplier damage is quite substantial, on top of the fact you have a scope, and the ammo economy and perk synergy is just far better than like a base Instigator. Though if you want to use like a heroic version, you could do that as well, but today I'm taking this. Now, for the perk tree setup, I do take the perk here, Great Might first. The damage increases by 10% against terminus level enemies, and the perk over here, Retaliation. After a perfect time dodge, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. Now, the main reason I'm picking up this perk over the top tree here is because I will be using the perk Hone Reactions this time. This one says when your health is less than 50%, your perfect dodge window is doubled. This is actually the biggest perfect dodge window increase in the entire game, even greater than the starting perk on the Assault class, so really easy to trigger things like this on this build, which is why we're using it today. Now, for the rest of the perk tree, I take the perk Perpetual Penetration, moving here into the perk Reloading Immunity. Then I pick up the perk here, Extended Magazine into Divine Might for more damage. And then we grab the perk here, Recoupment. Killing a Majority level or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restore on a drift feed like this is incredible in Space Marine 2. Armor is such a great way to damage cap against enemy attacks, because any amount of armor remaining in this game will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0 even from bosses, so really nice to have on a 15-second cooldown. This will also stack very easily with perks like Conviction here for a 25% health damage reduction on armor break, so a great option all around there. Now, for the next perk here, I take Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores your health by 10%. This is the only form of healing I have in this build. I will be taking Tactical Prowess Zone of Impact on this one with Inner Fire, so we don't actually have any HP healing on this one. But our actual survivability here is not hurt too much, because we do have Thrill of the Fight for a 20% health damage reduction on a parry, block, or dodge, and Conviction for another 25% health damage reduction on armor break. And we have this low HP heal here that can take us up above like 30% a little bit. Our effective HP is actually quite high, even with no direct healing perks beyond this. So that is why I picked this up today. Next perk here is Divine Might, moving here into the perk Able Headshot for 20% headshot damage on ability use, since we use our grapnel all the time. And the final perk is Increased Capacity for more ammo, because our ammo economy on this class kind of sucks. And that's pretty much all there is for the Occulus. Now, I will say, if you want to take like a Marksman Carbine, you could do that too. It's also quite good in this build. I would set up this way on the ammo variant, because the ammo variant, it did get a base damage buff this patch as well. So definitely use either one of these if you want. But I'm taking Occulus today, and that's all I have to say on the primary weapon. Now, for the secondary weapon, I do once again take the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol, mainly because this has the highest gun strike damage in the game and the heroic perk effect, and No Help is Coming. Shooting an enemy through lead stream stats stops for calling for reinforcements, and headshots will kill in one shot. This perk is incredibly useful for like all content outside of siege mode, because they don't call reinforcements there, but being able to one-shot a reinforcement calling enemy will not only remove the possibility of an enraged enemy in your absolute and lethal operations, but also just save you a ton of ammo by outright stopping the horde, so a really good option here. Now, for the perk tree, I go all the way down the bottom with Divine Might first, into the perk Perpetual Penetration, Increased Capacity, Extended Magazine, Death Strike, which reads after killing a Majora's level or higher enemy in melee combat, that, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. Now, this perk will also trigger off of a melee finisher, not just a melee kill, but you do have to have your secondary equipped to get the effect. If you swap off of it during those 10 seconds, you will lose the effect as well, so just make sure you're aware of that. Next perk here is Great Might, into the perk here Strong Start. Then I grab the perk Able Damage. After using a class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. Now on the Vanguard, you use your grapnel all the damn time, so this will trigger constantly. Really good perk effect here, and I do pick this up on classes that have a pretty quick recovery on their class ability, like Assault, Vanguard, and even the Heavy class at times, so that's what we're picking up here today. Now the final perks are Home Precision, Gunstrike Reload, and Tactical Precision, because once again, headshot damage is like all that matters in this game, so a 20% buff here is very good for us. Though I will say, if you want to skip over these bottom 3 perks of like Strong Start, Able Damage, and Home Precision, you can go up here for Discipline instead, which gives you a 25% buff on low ammo, which does trigger quite often, and then go here into Strong Finish for a 50% damage bonus to the last round of the magazine, and Headhunter for even more headshot damage. But is up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now for the melee weapon selection, I do take the Heroic Combat Knife Power Gladius for a few reasons here. Number one, the speed of 7+ here actually makes your horde clear pretty damn good compared to the Argent Edge. The Argent Edge only has a 3+ speed, making it the slowest combat knife out of all the Relic and Heroic options, so Power Gladius is definitely the best for that. And also, the Heroic perk effect here, Agile Strike, gives you way more damage than the Argent Edge. After a perfect dodge, the next melee attack deals 120% more damage and can be stacked up to 3 times. Now, there's actually a hidden perk effect here as well that will have this damage effect linger for 1 second after the initial attack, so even better than it sounds initially. And we also have the potentially doubled dodge window here, so very easy to pull off these stacks. And for all those reasons, I'm using this one today. Now, for the perk tree, I do take Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the Pyrokinetic Energy. Each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3%, up to 30% for 3 seconds. It's actually pretty easy to get consecutive heavy attacks on this weapon because we once again have a 7+ speed here. And the next perk is Perpetual Strength, moving here to the perk Heavy Onslaught for 15% more damage on our heavy attacks. And then I grab the perk here, Reeling Blow, into Shadow Stab. And now, Shadow Stab is the premier single target damage ability on the knife. This is like the main reason you take this weapon usually anyways, so definitely pick this up. And then I go up here into Tide of Battle. Then I pick up the perk here, Shoulder Bash, which simply replaces our distance stab lunging attack with a far better one in my opinion, so I do prefer this overall. And the final perk I grab is Terminus Slayer, though alternatively you could pick up Extremis Slayer, but that is up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Gladius. Now for the Vanguard perk tree, I do take the perk Moving Target first, killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters for its ability charged by 10%. This perk is okay. It does help out occasionally because a 10% ability charge restore is like not the worst thing ever. The big issue I have with this perk is that a 30-meter distance requirement is pretty shit. Hopefully they move that to like 20 or 15 meters at some point in time, but for now, I put it as like a mid-tier option, but they did buff it up, so I want to try it out today. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. This is a top tier damage reduction perk in Space Marine 2. You pretty much always pick this up. It's probably the best perk in this whole column here by far. Next perk here is Home Reactions. When your health is less than 50%, your perfect dodge window is doubled. We are taking this for all the reasons I previously mentioned because dodge windows help us out a ton on this build. And the next perk here is Inner Fire. All team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majoris or higher enemies. Now, previously, you could just kill any Majoris and get the 15% back in any way. Unfortunately, now it has to be a melee finisher or just like a gunstrike kill, but still a really strong perk, still really good to give you back your grapnels over and over, and grapnels are incredibly useful on this build because we get launch restoration armor from them on top of more zone of impacts and tactical prowess triggers. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. This perk will now trigger as of like patch 11 on both the tactical prowess triggers on top of your snare grapnel. Previously, the executions from this perk would not trigger the 40% range damage reduction. Now they do, so it's better than ever. And a 40% range damage reduction is very substantial in this game, so definitely pick this one up. Next perk here is Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with the grapnel launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. This is the primary AoE damage on this build. Without this, your AoE horde clear kind of sucks. I would definitely pick this one up because this is like the go-to execution combo with the signature perk Tactical Prowess. Grapnel Launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but also on those who have less than 33% health except Terminus level. And performing a finisher with the Grapnel Launcher restores its charge. This perk combined with the perk Zone of Impact is the main form of Horde Clear you have on this build. This is the best perk combo for Vanguard in the game and has been for quite a while. Definitely pick these two up. And the final perk I take here is Thrill of the Fight. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This is just a nice damage reduction perk. I pick this up with home reactions pretty much all the time because the damage reduction you get here is quite substantial, and it will also reapply itself every single parry, block, or dodge, even if the original 5 seconds here are not up, so just keep that in mind. And that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree here. Now for the prestige perk list, I do take the perk of Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you will deal 10% more range damage. This perk is incredible for Vanguard because you do have a grapnel launcher, so being within 8 meters of an enemy happens all the time, so definitely grab this one. The next perk I take is Fortitude. Health increases by 15% because health increases are very valuable in Space Marine 2. And the final two perks are Launch Restoration and Restoration for Armor Restore, and that's pretty much all there is for the prestige perk list. Hey guys, first regards in here, and so I'll be talking about a melee Vanguard build for Space Marine 2 patch 12.2. Now, in this build, we will be using the newly buffed Retribution perk. This one got buffed in the patch 12.2 hotfix, and now it has a melee damage increase of 30% when your ranged weapons magazine is empty, up from a 25% buff. Now, I'll be honest, this perk is not very strong at all for multiple reasons I'm going to explain here. First of all, the 30% melee damage buff here is not taking your Relic Tears weapon into account. It is talking about a 30% buff based on the damage of your standard issue weapon. This is the same way the perk here on Inferno Pistol functions with Motivated Melee, but they do stack together, and even though the damage increase is not as substantial as 50% total might imply, some damage is better than no damage, and it's kind of like a little neat perk interaction, so I will be building around that today. Now, for the primary melee weapon here, I do take the Balanced Chainsword today, mainly because in patch 12, all of the balanced weapons got like a 15% base damage buff for the most part. This one now has a 20 strength, 7 speed, and 10 cleaving potential, which is a really strong option. And on the Vanguard especially, the perk down here in our perk tree, Swift Recovery, that gives us double CHP recovery on heavy attacks, that stacks very well with our starting perk here because we also get 50% bonus CHP recovery on like all melee attacks anyways on this class, so really good at like surviving hordes on this option. Now for the rest of the perk tree, I do take Perpetual Strength first, moving here into Perpetual Strength and Perpetual Strength again for a 10% melee damage buff, and then I grab the perk here, Reverberating Impact. Stomp AoE radius increases by 50%. The Stomp AoE radius here is just way better than the perk down here for an increased light combo. Light combos aren't that strong anyways in this game, and even with a 7 speed, you're better off just taking the Stomp perk in my opinion. The next perk here is Combined Onslaught. Light combo attacks with this weapon deal 10% more melee damage. Moving here into the perk Heavy Onslaught. Heavy attacks with this weapon deal 15% more melee damage, and the final perk I take down here is Full Throttle. Not for the actual charge attack, but mainly because there is a combo skip with this perk. It did get nerfed a little bit a while back. There's like a bit of a delay after the combo skip. It does let you like skip over one step into your stomp and stuff like that. Next perk here is Hard Target, and the final perk in the overall tree is Majora Slayer, though alternatively you could go down here for Extremis Slayer and Menorah Slayer. That is up to you, but Hard Target I think is actually pretty good on the 7-speed weapon, and Majoras are everywhere in this game, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how to build your Chainsword. Now for the primary ranged weapon, I do take the Heroic Instigator Carbine. This is a pretty damn strong weapon in the game, especially for Vanguard, mainly because the base firepower here is way better than every other Instigator option, and the Heroic perk effect gives you a 5-round burst rather than a 3-round burst, and overall, this is just the best Instigator in the game currently. There's like no reason to use the Relic Tier options at the moment, so hopefully they buff these someday, but for now, I would just pick this one up. Now, for the perk tree here, we just go for ammo economy first, with things like Extended Magazine into the perk here, Reloaded Restoration. After reloading, your ammo reserve is restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. The Vanguard class is actually pretty ammo inefficient, so having this perk helps you out a ton. It is a very noticeable ammo economy increase, so I definitely pick this up. Next perk here is Divine Might into the perk Increased Capacity for even more ammo. And then I grab the perks here with Great Might, the perk down here Home Precision for better hipfire, and one of the best perks in the game with Recoupment. Killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. The drip-fed armor restore in this game is incredible. This perk will prevent so much damage for you, especially on classes like Sniper, but even here on Vanguard. Being able to get back armor on a 15-second cooldown just helps prevent chip damage and melee attacks, so a really good option. And the next perk I take is, of course, Tactical Precision. Headshots deal 20% more damage, and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. Headshot damage is all that matters on this weapon still. Pretty much every bolt weapon in the game requires headshots to do like any notable damage. They did say they'll buff up the body shot damage one day, but for now, definitely pick this up because headshots are all that matter. Next perk is Headhunter for even more headshot damage, and the final perk is Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in a rapid session restores health by 10%. This is just a free HP restore and actually pretty easy to pull off on this weapon. Even though we are taking Adrenaline Rush on this build, more healing is always pretty good, and this one also helps you out in a bit of a pinch because the healing here is a little bit faster at times. Now, you may be wondering why I didn't go all the way down the tree for things like Inspired Aim or the perk down here, Death Strike. These can give you like situationally more damage than this build would, but for the most part, the base damage here is actually better than if you were like go all the way down the tree. And also the perk investment here is just way too much in my opinion to go all the way down to these perks here, and you're better off just taking things like Tactical Precision and Recoupment anyways. And that's why we set it up this way, and that's all there is for the Heroic Instigator. Now for my secondary weapon, I do take the Inferno pistol on the ranged rate of fire variant, mainly because all we really want from this gun is like one super long range shot, because we will be building into the perk here, Motivated Melee, just like our Retribution perk on our actual perk tree. And for this to actually function, we do have to have our magazine empty, and using the perk down here, one shot that increases your damage by 50%. It makes it so the weapon only holds one cartridge. It makes that much easier, so we're going to be building around that today. So number one here, I take Divine Might, into the perk here, Motivated Melee, into the perk Great Might, Perpetual Range for even more range. Then move here into the perk Fast Reload, No Fear, and then we grab, of course, a one shot, and the final perk is Rapid Health, which is actually pretty easy to trigger here. This gives us multiple sources of HP healing on this build from Adrenaline Rush, and then 2 Rapid Health perks on both of our ranged weapons, so pretty good option there. And that's pretty much all there is for the secondary weapon. Now for the Vanguard perk tree, I do take the perk here, Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 10% against Majora's level and higher enemies. This is a nice little melee damage buff, though unfortunately the damage calculation of this is actually bugged to not be multiplicative like Sniper's is, which does kind of suck, so hopefully they fix that one day. But they also buffed up the perk Moving Target this patch, and this one still sucks. It says killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 10%. 30 meters is just way too far, especially for a Vanguard class. Like, usually Vanguard is grappling in anyways, so being 30 meters away from an enemy, this happens like very rarely in this game, and like the 10% back on that, it's just not a very strong perk. So I would pick from like one of these two options. I think Upper Hand is the overall best, because a no knockback will just save your life in this game and make meleeing like easier in general. So if you want to pick this one up, you definitely could. I'm just going for full melee today, so I'm picking up Melee Mastery. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction in Space Marine 2 is very substantial. This will save your life, especially when stacked with perks down here like Launch Restoration and Restoration for armor restored back on a drip feed, which makes it very easy to continuously trigger this perk. So a really great perk here. Next perk here is, of course, Retribution. When your ranged weapons magazine is empty, melee damage increases by 30%. This will stack with your Inferno pistol for a 50% melee damage buff here, which is pretty nice. Obviously, it's not as good for the reasons I previously mentioned as it could be, but it's still a pretty decent perk option, though probably the weakest in this column by far. Next perk here is Inner Fire. All team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majora's and higher enemies. Now, I'm not picking up the team healing perk here, mainly because I'm building around tenacity and collateral damage here, which means we get more diving kick damage, and Inner Fire means more diving kicks, and more diving kicks means more damage, so pretty obvious synergy there. Next perk here is Collateral Damage. Diving Kick deals 50% more damage and additionally damages enemies on the way to the grapple launcher's target. When you combine this perk with the perk over here, Tenacity, after a range kill of a Majora's level or higher enemy, Diving Kick's damage increases by 130% with a 15-second cooldown. You can put out a ridiculous amount of damage sometimes. You will like one kick Majora's, one kick Zoanthropes. Really fun build option to use. Obviously, Tactical Prowess and Zone of Impact are a better combo, But as far as just like fun is concerned, I think this one's just way more entertaining for like a melee build on this one. Next perk here is combat readiness. Grapnel launcher recharges 20% faster. For the same reason as inner fire, more grapnels means more damage, so I picked both of these up. Final perk here is Adrenaline Rush. The melee kills a majority of higher enemies restore health by 5%. Most players who play Vanguard want him for his heals, so at least having one of these two perks I think is like a good option for that. If you want to skip over this for like tactical prowess even and still pick up Zone of Impact, I guess you could. Or you can take like an Emperor's Blessing here if you really wanted to, but I'm picking this one up today just to like have a little bit of healing on this build. Now, as far as the prestige perks are concerned, I still take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you will deal 10% more range damage. Being able to just one burst an enemy off a diving kick with your heroic Instigator is really nice with this perk. And also, being within 8 meters of an enemy happens all the time on Vanguard because Vanguard has a grapnel launcher, so a really good synergy. Next perk here is Fortitude. Health increases by 15%. Moving here into the perk Launch Restoration. Using the grapnel launcher restores an armor segment. When you have perks like inner fire and combat readiness on top of this one, you are going to be getting so much free armor back. More grapnels not only gives you more iframes because grapnel launcher has iframes across the entire trajectory, but also just means more armor and just more opportunities to move yourself out of bad positions. So I think for the most part, a launch restoration and inner fire on top of perks like this can be safer if you were playing better, which is why I overall prefer them on the Vanguard class. Next perk here is Restoration. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This is just a free armor restore on a drip feed. I don't think it's quite as good on Vanguard as Launch Restoration is for the reasons I previously mentioned, but it's still a great like secondary option for armor restore. If you want to skip this for like Indomitable Spirit for no knockback on gun strikes, you could definitely do that, because on this build I am not taking upper hand. You know, you could just pick this one up instead and completely circumvent this option, but that is up to you. And that's pretty much all there is for this build guide, guys. I think the Vanguard's newly buffed Retribution perk is okay. It does feel pretty fun to use the Inferno pistol, but hopefully they do fix up the damage calculation of these perks eventually. And for now, I would pretty much never touch Melee Champion because it actually has like the same damage calculation as this perk, and this one is just pretty shit. So like hopefully they fix these perks someday, but that's all I'm going to be talking about in this one, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to come hang out with me live and ask me questions about the game, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description alongside a link to my community Discord. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.